Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Samuel with Cedar Pine Designs, and in today's video I'm working on a 9-drawer dresser in a mid-century style. It's been a little while since I posted a longer video, so let's jump straight into this one. Before I start any project, I like to take it apart. I like to remove all the drawers and any hardware, if any, and get a good look at everything to make sure that there's no repairs that need to be made or any drawer slides that are loose or broken. And I give it a good cleaning with TSP degreaser followed up by some water just to remove any residue that may be left over from the degreaser. Cleaning process is always important to remove any dust or debris that could get caught up inside any of your sanding pads, ruining your sandpaper, or digging some of that dirt and grime if you plan to sand down to bare wood like I'm doing on these sides. Keeps that stuff just out of the grain and keeps your piece looking a lot nicer. So I always like to test out my pieces with 150 grit first to see if that will take all the finish off before I try 80 grit. The reason for that is because 80 grit tends to leave a lot of scratch marks, and then you'll have to go over it with a few different grits just to get it smooth again. So for this one, it was coming off fairly easy, so I did 150 and then moved on to a 220 just to smooth it out. So I'm masking off the sides and the body of the dresser because the top, I'm not sure what happened in its previous life, but there are 4 big holes drilled through the top all the way through, and there was really no way to repair that. So I'm going to be painting the top. And if you notice here, I do leave a small little gap between the base and the body of the dresser because that part I was unable to sand out and get all the finish out, so I'm just going to spray it black inside there just to give it a little separation. As for the top, I do plan on painting it, but I end up sanding it all the way down to bare wood just to see if there was any way that I could save it because it was such a beautiful veneer. But like I said, there was 4 really deep holes drilled out on the opposite side of the top here, so it just wasn't able to be saved. So these are the 4 holes that somebody drilled all the way through the top. I think it was maybe for like a computer mount, but it just was not salvageable, and I didn't want to try to take the time to blend those holes in with the rest of the top. I'm taping all the drawers off because I plan on painting all the faces in a Limousine leather black color. I was going to try to do like a 2-tone with the faces, but the veneer on the faces of the drawers were a little brittle, so when I went to sand, the edges were chipping off a little bit, so I decided to just scuff sand them, maybe use a little bit of wood filler, and just paint them to match the rest of the dresser. As I said previously, I am using my favorite color, Limousine Leather Black by Behr. It has a built-in primer and a satin finish. I dilute it with about 20% water to 80% paint, just so that it will work its way into my HVLP spray gun. I'll get nice smooth coats and finishes with it, and it also helps to self-level a little bit. And I do use these disposable paint filters just to keep any crud out of the paint, and I do 2 to maybe 3 coats of this paint with sanding in between of about 220 to 400 grit. Your first coat of paint, you want to keep it kind of light because it is going to show a lot of the imperfections that you missed before you started putting your paint on, and that's the reason why I like to use about 3 coats of paint just to give it some really nice good coverage. So here I'm using a 220 grit piece of sandpaper just to give the next coat of paint something nice and rough to stick to, and usually after about the 2nd coat or even the 3rd coat before I start doing top coat is when I like to start using a 400 grit just not to leave any deep scratches. Thankfully, it's summertime right now, and in California we get very nice weather that stays. Right now it's typically been about between 75 and 85 degrees, which is the perfect temperature for this stuff to dry super quick, and I can lay at least 3 coats of paint on within a few hours. So for the top coat, you know that I love Verathane's polyurethane in a satin finish. This is water-based. This is a new jug, so right here you're gonna see I tried to pour it in there and I missed terribly, wasting quite a bit, but you know, it happens sometimes. Things don't always go perfect. I like to mix it with my paint. I like to use maybe 20 to 30% of the paint. It just gives it nice coats of paint while still adding that polyurethane durability, and I also found that it does give it a little bit more depth and dimension. It's a good practice to use. It also keeps from leaving streaks behind when you're using darker colors like this, and sometimes it'll leave a cloudiness behind once it's dry, so mixing it with the paint is perfect. I get a lot of questions about the HVLP spray gun that I used. I do have a link in the description below if you want to check it out. It is only about $50 and it is on Amazon. And I have to say, I've only had one so far, but it has lasted me over a year and it's still going strong. You just have to be sure to clean it out and run water through it until it comes out clear and you're good to go. After I was done with the paint process, I removed all the masking paper to find that a little bit of paint got on the side, so I'm just going over with 220 grit sandpaper just to remove it. And also, sometimes masking tape will leave a residue behind, so you can use your sander to get rid of that as well. Once all the tape was removed from the base, I did notice that there was a little bit of paint bleed through, but the same steps, you can just sand that all off and get a nice crispy line. I'm using a pre-stained wood conditioner, and typically you don't really need it on really nice veneer because it typically stains really uniform, but the base is made of some kind of pine or poplar, so I decided to just use it on all the exposed wood before I put my stain on. Once you're done applying your pre-stain, you can move straight into staining, and the base and the body I'm going to stain in a dark walnut. I went through my footage and I have the footage of me staining the base with the dark walnut stain, but I don't have any footage of me doing the sides, and it really does match perfectly. I had no issues with that. And then I move on to all the drawers. I sanded the sides down just to get them nice and smooth, and I'm finishing them up with some Howard's Feed and Wax. Once the wax is all done, I just put all the drawers back in. This was a super simple project. It didn't take me very much time at all. It came out really good. I'm super happy with it. Now let's see how it looked before. I'm definitely happy with the way this one turned out. I mean, that response could be a bit biased because this is my favorite color combination, but let's go ahead and jump into the numbers for this video. $100 for the dresser, $30 in material as I buy in bulk, $40 for gas to pick it up, so $170 total in this investment. I sold it for $650 and they did pick it up from me, so that's $480 in profit, which is pretty good for this flip considering it took me about maybe 6 hours to complete this job. Really like to thank everybody for stopping by and watching my videos. I'm really blown away with all the support that I've been receiving lately. We just hit over 15,000 subscribers and I cannot wait to see you guys on my next project.